Hi vintage bakers, join me today in the kitchen as I try to make the cutest pumpkin bagels that actually look like pumpkins and are actually really delicious. These little guys have a soft and tender inside with a chewy, slightly sweet golden outside. These also happen to be the cutest lunch to pack for the kids as we head into the fall season. Of course, the most challenging part of this recipe is going to be how to shape these with all the grooves and details that make it look like a real pumpkin, instead of just an orange bagel. And I'll show you how a little later on. So let's get into the kitchen. This is how I make pumpkin-shaped bagels. To start this recipe, I'm going to soften the yeast. In the bowl of a stand mixer or in a large bowl if you're making this recipe by hand, I'm going to add in 1 cup of warm milk, 2 tablespoons of honey. Give this a quick mix to dissolve the honey and then sprinkle 1 packet or 2 1/4 teaspoons of dry active yeast on top. After a few minutes, you'll see that the yeast will look like a light foamy cloud in the bowl, and so we're ready to add the rest of the ingredients. Add in 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 4 tablespoons of soft butter, and 1 egg white. You can set the egg yolk aside to brush the tops of the bagels a little later on. Finally, add in 3 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to knead this with the dough hook attachment until the dough starts to hold together. Then I'm going to remove about 1/4 cup of dough. Now we get to add the colors. I'm using gel food coloring, which is a little more concentrated. I'm going to add a little bit of green to the small chunk of dough, and then I'm going to knead it until the green is evenly distributed throughout the dough ball. For the big ball of dough, of course, I'm going to make this orange. I didn't have any orange food coloring, so I'm just going to mix red and yellow. To get the orange, just make sure it's a tiny bit of red and mostly yellow. For this, you can either mix it for about 5 minutes in the stand mixer, or if you're making the recipe by hand, just tip it out onto the counter and knead for about 8 minutes, or until you have a smooth elastic orange dough ball. Cover each and allow the dough to rise in a warm spot until doubled, which for me was about 1 hour. Now that the dough has risen, I'm going to do the first shaping. Split the orange and green dough into 12 equal pieces. I'm going to shape the green by folding it in thirds, kind of like a letter going into an envelope, and then rolling it up in the opposite direction, pressing it down to hold the little green log together. For the orange, I'm going to shape each little section into little circular clumps. Fold it over on itself all the way around the circumference of the dough. Then flip the dough over and press and tighten it to the counter with the palm of your hand, moving in a circular motion. Once all 12 sections of orange and green dough are pre-shaped, cover and rest for about 30 minutes. My dough has rested and is ready for the final shaping. For each round dough ball, I'm going to make a relatively large hole in the center, and then place a little green dough stem right through the middle. Remember, the dough is still going to rise and expand before being cooked. Continue shaping each bagel and attaching the stems for the rest of the dough. Now, using kitchen twine, cooking twine, butcher's cord, baker's twine, this goes by many different names, and at least where I live is easy to buy at the grocery store. I'm going to cut a length and wrap around my bagels. This is going to make all of the grooves for the pumpkin as they expand. Place the bagel in the center of the cord and then wrap the dough crisscrossing back and forth. Tie a knot to secure the cord. No need to make this fancy, the cord is going to be removed before serving the bagels. Make sure you're not wrapping the cord too tightly or the cord will work its way too far into the inside of the dough as it rises and expands. You shouldn't see any grooves in the dough at this point. Continue wrapping the rest of the bagels and then set them aside to rise for about 30 to 40 minutes. I'm placing mine spread out on a few lined baking sheets just to make sure the dough doesn't stick to anything. Once the bagels have just about doubled in size, you can see all those lovely pumpkin-like grooves all around the outside of each bagel, and we're ready to cook. I've already placed a large pot of boiling water on the stove, and I'm going to add about a half a cup of honey to the pot. This is going to add a lovely sweetness and shine to the outside of the bagels once they're done. Gently with a slotted spoon, ladle the bagels into the boiling water and allow them to cook for 1 minute. Then with a quick tip from the spoon on the side of the little pumpkins, flip each one over in the water. Allow them to cook 1 more minute on the other side. Remove them to a wire rack to dry while you get the rest of the little pumpkins in the water. To give these pumpkin bagels a lovely glossy golden outside, I'm going to mix that reserved egg yolk with 1 teaspoon of water and brush this on top of all my boiled bagels. Already preheated my oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 200 degrees Celsius, and I placed my pizza stone in the oven to preheat along with it. If you don't have a pizza stone, you can just place any baking sheet in the oven to preheat. Now I can put my boiled and egg-washed pumpkins onto the tray and place them in the oven to cook for 15 to 18 minutes, or until golden brown, or orange, I guess in this case. These are perfectly golden and look so cute, the perfect pumpkin-shaped bagels, and now the whole house smells like a bakery. Allow them to cool before snipping and removing the cord. This is a great fall recipe for the kids to get involved in to watch their pumpkins grow and form right in your own kitchen. Plus, they get to eat them at the end. These are perfect for slicing through the center and toasting with cream cheese or making any kind of delicious sandwich you can think of. Hopefully you had as much fun making these delicious pumpkin-shaped bagels as I did. If you're a fan of deliciously simple vintage recipes and old-fashioned skills, then you'll want to check out this next video. Thanks for stopping by.